settled on Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence, you have a chance to reflect on what you're seeing. You know, you go back and watch it, which I've done a couple of times now, and as good a performance it was from Terrence Crawford. And, you know, let's not try and take away, Terrence Crawford is a tremendous fighter. He really, truly is. He's just tremendous. He really is. He's an exceptional fighter. Errol Spence in that fight, his punch resistance, probably the most eye-catching, I was going to say revealing, but a bit of everything really. His punch resistance being as off as it was a bit of a head-scratcher, because Spence, someone speculated about his chin in the past and said that it's not been great. He was rocked very early on in his career. I think it was back in 2015, thereabouts. Stunned. Took shots from Kell Brook, no problem, who can punch at welterweight. Very big puncher at 147 pounds. Big puncher in general is Kell Brook. And going into this fight, you kind of thought, okay, look, will he be able to... Crawford hits hard. He'd be a bigger puncher than Spence used to be in there with. How will he react? He reacted terribly to it. Horrifically. You know, he was hurt several times even when he didn't go down. He was still buzzed a lot by Crawford. And you looked at that and you kind of thought to yourself at the time, you know, the morning after, the night before, as Boxing Gossip used to say, you think like, so the weight, what's the deal here? You know? Now, I've long since said on this channel, I go back and watch videos I've done on Spence, I've long since said that I suspect, and again, I can't prove this definitively, but I suspect that there is residual damage from the car crash. There has to be. Anyone who has seen the car crash, who's actually gone and watched the CCTV camera of that car crash, you see the violence of it, you see the impact, the fact he was thrown from that car. He is extremely, extremely lucky to be alive. Very lucky. Because that is a crash that, just looking at it, you would have to just be extremely lucky to walk away from it, because it was very, very violent. But the fact that he did walk away, obviously, is a good thing, you know. But you look at it and you think, there has to be residual damage there. There has to be. It's obviously not come to the surface. Maybe they're not telling us, but it's got to be there somewhere. There absolutely has to be, because this isn't like Errol Spence was in a crash where it wasn't good and he took some knocks and, you know, he had an injury. But you look at the crash and you think, oh, okay, look, it's, you know, you shouldn't have been drink driving. You know, the crash is what the crash is. This was a very violent crash, extremely violent. So I've always felt that, and I've said it in several videos. And today I was listening to BDA. So BDA, for those who don't know, and most people would know who BDA are, they're a very fast growing channel here on YouTube. You know, I've been listening to them for many years now, good few years now at this stage. And normally BDA do a lot of lives, but today, or yesterday I should say, they uploaded a video. They don't normally do. They do a lot of documentaries and a little bit of fight study, but normally they don't do videos. And it was a recording of the previous live. Now, BDA, for those who don't know, and I'll link the video in the description, go over and give their channel a sub. They're nearly at 30k. You can phone in. You can phone into BDA, you know, give your 2 cents on things. They've always done that. It's the way they do it. Very good channel. But on this occasion, a doctor who's been on with BDA before, but not for many, many years, he phoned up, and he has a background in neurological studies and stuff like that. So he knows what he's looking for. And he stated that, in his opinion, after the car crash is when he noticed a change in Errol Spence. He said you wouldn't notice it from the neck down because of the shape he's in. He's obviously an athlete. He's a physical specimen, as he said. But looking at him in his face, their eyes, obviously, and his wife as well, noticed that. He said that she's got a background in that as well. So they would notice it more than me or you would. And in his opinion, again, he not saying this is fact, but this is his opinion, that Spence is suffering a neurological issue, possibly degenerative, right? Which is something that will, the longer it goes, the worse it gets, essentially. That is why he thinks with Errol Spence. He says you only have to look at him, look at his eyes, look at his facial features. Something is not right there. And that's what he's saying. He's also spoken about Spence's speech. Now, he did obviously say that he is aware that Spence has had his teeth replaced, or some of them anyway. So of course that will, your speech is not going to be 100% if that happens. He's aware of that. But he said that the way Spence has been speaking, he's not putting it down to just him having new teeth. He said it's more than that. That's what he thinks. Now, some people would argue and say, well, Spence has obviously gone for brain scans and that wouldn't have, come up with anything. But how often have you seen, I don't know how thorough these brain scans are. Because for some fighters, they pick up on things and you hear the fighter and they sound fine, right? But then there are other fighters who, they pass medicals. You look at in the UK, some of them have passed medicals with the British Boxing Board of Control, no questions asked. And you listen to them and you're like, no, you shouldn't be passing no medical. And at times you have to look past what the doctor says and just come to your own conclusion. It's all well and good, if a fighter says, well, a doctor, here's my brain scan and he says I'm fine, but he's talking and he's saying, the doctor said my brain scan is fine. And, you have to just use your critical factors there and say, it's not. Because I have ears and eyes and I can see and hear, you ain't okay. And I get the impression that that's what this doctor is saying about Errol Spence. Now, he went in, it's about a half hour, so go and have a listen to it. I recommend you listen to it. It's a very, very good listen. And as I said, it's in his opinion and his wife's opinion that Errol Spence is suffering a neurological issue, possibly degenerative, which again will rear its head more so over time. It's something you don't want to hear, and I sincerely hope, I really do, that this is not the case, that maybe this is someone looking at something and maybe looking for something that otherwise isn't there. But I don't know, he speculates that it's residual damage from the car crash. And I'm inclined to agree, certainly there's residual damage from the car crash. Do I not think it's as severe as that? It's very hard to say, but cast your minds back to the image of Errol Spence. I think it was the mugshot post-car crash. And obviously it's not long after the car crash has happened. He's got some scars on his face. He's looking a bit banged up. But the eye that was completely red looked very bizarre. In fact, both eyes looked very bizarre. And you looked at that image and thought, nah. I know they said that it was all well and good and not well and good, but considering how bad it was, for them he escaped relatively unscathed. That's what they say, but when you look at that picture and everything else, you just think, really? Did you really escape it that unscathed? You can only suspect. I don't know. I've not seen a report of anything like that, but I just have to, knowing, well, motor racing, obviously he wasn't racing, but being a fan of motor racing since I was probably not even old enough to walk. I've followed the sport longer than I follow boxing. I've been around it, even go-karted myself very many years ago now, and that's expensive, by the way. But being around it, you see things, you see crashes, and you see crashes in general, and some of them you look at and you don't think they're that bad, and they turn out to be horrendous. And then there's some that that they look bad because they are, and this looked bad. And I doubt very much so that Spence just walked away from that with the broken teeth and a few cuts from here and there. I reckon there may be something else. I hope it's not something as serious as this doctor is saying, because Errol Spence has a family. He's got, I don't think he's any sons, but he's definitely got a couple of daughters. So obviously he wants to be in the best physical health he can be to look after those kids. And he theorises that the punch resistance or lack thereof is a residual impact of the car crash, which it does again make sense, because the punch resistance for Errol Spence in the Danny Garcia fight wasn't amazing. He was rocked a couple of times, especially during the Energy Ugas fight, who's not a noted devastating puncher, was able to really stun Errol Spence. And then obviously against Crawford, anytime he was really hit, he was just hurt or he was on the floor. It would be easier to say if Errol Spence was like a Dylan White, who's been knocked out a bunch of times and has taken some, heavy shots. You could say, well, that's a dented chin. It's easy to say that because, well, he's taken flush shots from Joshua, been knocked out. He's taken flush shots in this fight, his chin's just dented. It's not like that with Spence, in terms of in a boxing sense. So for me, it is something that, it makes you think. Would be probably the best way I could describe it. I really hope that that doctor is maybe overanalyzing things for Spence's sake. Obviously, I don't know Spence personally, but I wouldn't want anyone. I wouldn't even want my worst enemy to go through a degenerative neurological issue, because that has got to be. I've never seen anyone who's gone through it, so I'm sure people have. Our subscribers who are listening have had people go through that. That has got to be one of the worst things, if not the worst, that can happen to someone. You know, your body is there, it's physically able, but your mind isn't. You know, that has got to be absolutely horrendous to go through, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, as I said. So I hope he's maybe overanalyzing things, but you do wonder about, you know, like CTE and, you know, post-concussion syndrome, I think is something else that's been called, and, you know, concussions going untreated. Now, saying that it's boxing, they do take that kind of stuff very, very serious, but it's a worry. It is a worry. With Errol Spence now at this point, that fight was so damaging for him. Errol Spence has made good money. He made a lot of money in the Crawford fight. Does he really need? Has he got anything else left to prove? Does he really? If there's like, it's not up to me to tell a fighter if he should stay or go. I've said this several times. I can only give my opinion, and I've given my opinion on several fighters who I think should go, or have taken fights, or in the middle of probably a camp for a fight, i.e. Dave Allen, who I don't think should be. And all I can say is, I give my opinion and I say you shouldn't be taking this, we shouldn't be near boxing in general. But it's just my opinion. What you do with it, what you must, if you listen to these videos. I can only give an opinion on Spence, and my opinion would be, having heard what that doctor said, I would say if I was in his team and he said, gee, what do you think I should do? I'd say, mate, you know, go play Red Dead Redemption. Go and watch Netflix, watch The Last Kingdom. Eat pizza, but don't be boxing. Don't be boxing. That's what I'd be saying. You have enough that you can do all those things. Go and eat as much pizza as you want, watch The Last Kingdom, play Red Dead Redemption, wait for GTA 6. Go on holidays to wherever, Costa Rica, Jamaica, Panama. Do all that. But for the love of God, don't box. For your own sake and for your family's sake, don't do that. That's probably what I'd be saying. It's going to be interesting to see what Spence does. Link is going to be in the description. I'll pin it in the comment section. Have a listen. BDA, great channel, by the way. Go over and give it a sub. But a very interesting interview with that doctor. Extremely interesting. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button if you could, and subscribe if you haven't already. For now, lads and lassies, I will, of course, leave you with that. We will chat again tomorrow. I've got something planned for tomorrow. So for now, peace.